Genesis chapter 37 and verse 12. Let me get there with you. Genesis 37 and verse, what verse? All right, we all together. Genesis 37 and verse 12. There are three dominant perspectives or worldviews as it relates to calling and destiny. If you're reading or listening to music or listening to commentators or popular opinion, you will typically bump into one of these three worldviews around calling and destiny that influence the way that human beings think about these things. The first one, and I think the media team will have this up there, the first calling in no particular order is an overly spiritualized view. Is that what you see in front of you? An overly spiritualized view towards calling. And this overly spiritualized view towards calling, it's one of three. And this one is the view that only preachers, pastors, priests, nuns, religious people, those are the kind of people that are called. The rest of us get to do whatever we want and however we want. But when it comes to religious folk, God will meet them on the roads of Damascus. God will meet them like Jeremiah as they pray. God will bump into them like Mother Teresa and call them into ministry. But if you're not called into ministry, then there's no such thing as calling outside of ministry. This first view is an overly spiritualized view towards calling. And oftentimes people want to know, how was the preacher called? Did a bright light shine and you went blind? You know, and the more dramatic the calling, the more significant is the calling on that preacher. Pastor, anybody ever heard a view like that? This is that one of the three views, about 4 or 5 of y'all. The rest of y'all, are you with me? There's a second view on calling that is dominant in our culture. And if we look closely at our own hearts, we'll find that we've been influenced by one of these three to some greater, to some lesser degree. The second view that is dominant in this world around calling is what I call a fatalistic view. A fatalistic view towards calling. In other words, que sera, sera, what will be, will be. Ain't no need for you to mess with it or worry about it or get yourself up in a bunch about it. Whatever God planned on you being, that's what you're going to be. There's nothing you can do about it, so you don't even need to participate in it. If you're going to be a horse rider that owns a bunch of stables, somewhere along the way, somebody's going to gift you some horses, or you're going to, whatever it is, you're just going to fall into it. It's a fatalistic view. There's nothing for me to do. It's fate. And fate is going to take over at some point, and there's nothing for you to do to be involved in it. You're going to be whatever you were going to be. How many of you have ever heard of people with that kind of view towards calling? Then there's a third view, which I believe was certainly the most dominant as I was coming up in the late 60s. And it was one that I heard a lot of parents even saying to their children, and I think it's one that's very dominant in our culture today. And that one is like the Nike view. Just whatever you want to be, just do it. It's the Nike view to calling. You can be whatever you want to be as long as you work hard at it, baby. You can grow up and be whatever you want to be. If you want to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, you can be a lawyer. If you want to be a mortician, you can be a mortician. If you want, whatever you want to be, baby. How many of you had your parents tell you something like that? My mother would often say to me, and I'm not hating on my mother today. I love my mother. I wouldn't know Jesus. I wouldn't be filled with the Spirit. I wouldn't be standing in front of you now if it wasn't for the example of my mother. But one of the things that my mama told me often was, KB, you can be whatever you want to be. And the thing is, while there might be some truth to we could will ourselves into stuff, it doesn't mean that we'd be in the will of God. It's possible that we could grind and push and press and promote and prop and position ourselves into some stuff. But although folk might agree with it, it still doesn't mean that God is in agreement with what we have become. But there's another view to calling, which is one that I see that is dominant in the scriptures, because I don't see the scriptures agreeing with any of the calls that I just walked through. And I just want to share a few verses that kind of shine some light on the scriptures. And then I want to preach today about the process of becoming. Would you say that with me? The process of becoming. And I don't care how old you are as you hear me today, because God sticks Abram and Sarah into the scriptures to demonstrate to us that no matter what season of life you are in, you are still becoming. God sticks Samuel into the scriptures, who isn't even a teenager yet. His Adam's apple probably can't even be seen yet, but God shows him in the scriptures to show that no matter how young you are, you can still be becoming. And it's as if God puts these two bookends here in the scriptures, and then he puts a whole bunch of folk right in the middle. But if you look closely at the scriptures, you'll see God intersecting in different seasons and times in people's lives and beckoning them with clear and undeniable clarity into his plans and purposes for them. Somebody just shout, I'm called. No, say it like you mean that I am called. And here's a few verses that wipe away those three dominant views before we jump into Genesis chapter 37 and verse 12 today. In Ephesians 2:10, the scriptures say, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, catch this, for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. How about Jeremiah 1:5? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. How can we skip by Acts 13 and 36? For David, after, look at this, he had served his own generation by the will of God, fell asleep, was buried with his fathers, and saw corruption. In other words, his outer man decayed. Can we run past Psalm 139 and verse 17? How precious also are your thoughts to me. Somebody say, God has thoughts about me. Oh God, how great is the sum of them. And then Jeremiah 29:11. Many of us have this on our refrigerator, on our keychain, or we quote this. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord. Thoughts of peace or shalom and not evil, to give you a future and a hope. So I don't see a fatalistic view here. I don't see a do whatever you want view here. And I don't see just preachers called here. Then what is the process of becoming? I'm so glad you asked. We've learned that I knew you when. We learned that he has a call for all of us. We learned that we are supernatural seed. But now we put on our Timberlands and do the hard work of walking out. How do we discover and how do we unearth the process of becoming? Are you ready for this? Or are we ready to leave now? 12 people. Would everybody else get up and get out of here? I just want those that want this today to stay in the room. How many of you are excited now about hearing about the process of becoming? I'm going to preach to myself because I want to hear this right now. Genesis 37 and verse 12 through 14, the process of becoming. We're going to begin to see today that the process of becoming involves the natural and the supernatural. The process of becoming involves God's will and our will. The process of becoming is a process that God takes stuff that we would think he would look over and ignore, and those are things that are significant and prominent to God. A lot of us live life like I can't wait till I get to the good part, because I'm at the part right now that doesn't even matter. Maybe some of y'all saw Adam Sandler's movie Click, and he tried to click through all the parts of his life that he didn't like just to get to the parts that he did like. And when it was done, he realized he had missed life. So let's put our clickers away and let's step into God's process of becoming. Then his brothers went to feed their flocks in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them. So he said to him, Here I am. Then he said to him, Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me. So he sent him out into the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. I want you to know that the first thing, and you need to write this down, that God uses in the process of our becoming is work. The very first thing that God uses in the process of our discovering what he made us to be and what he's called us to do, his plans, plural, and his purposes, plural, for our life, the first way that we step into that process with God is by getting a job. We see here that it's the very first time that we see Joseph's name mentioned and his father putting him to work. If you do a word search on Joseph, it's the first time that you see. I want to say that this was his first day on the job. It kind of looks like it's early in his work life that his father has hired him, and the work that he's hired to put his son in place to do is, I want you to be an administrator. I want you to be like an overseer. You're going to be like a junior overseer. You're going to be like my manager for me. And he employs his son and sends him out to not work with the flocks the way his brothers do, but to check on the flocks and his brothers and bring back word to me. I want you to be a junior overseer, see what's going on, and come back and bring that to me. If we're honest, some of us don't like work. We don't like job, or at least we don't like starting jobs and hourly rate jobs. And oftentimes jobs make us think I'm more than this. Oftentimes, jobs make us think I'm better than this. Have you ever been waited on by somebody at a fast food restaurant that had the attitude that you should come behind the counter and serve your doggone self because I'm better than this funny hat that I got on, and I'm better than this costume I got on, and you ought to be back here. And I wish you would ask me for excellent service. You should be lucky I'm serving you. And if you ask that person their backstory, they would probably tell you something like, I'm worth more than what they're paying me. You have no idea how they treat me. There's been no promotion opportunity. This joke over here just started and he get more hours than me. But if you ask them, you would hear so much behind the attitude. But the interesting thing is, all throughout the landscape of Scripture, the first thing, the prominent thing, the foundational thing that God uses to prepare us for call and becoming is work. Somebody say J-O-B. Even God himself sings, if you want to hang with, you got to have a J-O-B. If you want to be, even Jesus sings this song. Because it's in work where we begin to find out the inner workings of what's going on in us. In work, you start to see the attitudes that you have about yourself, the attitudes that you have about supervision and oversight and submission. You start to see the attitudes that you have towards coworkers and other folks. And some people that you work with feel like they're better than everybody else there. You got on the same uniform and the same shoes in the same place. Okay, you a general manager now, but we all in the same place. But sometimes folk use jobs as the thing to give them worth or value. But a job wasn't designed to give us worth or value. A job was designed to give us something to set our hands to do. And God is the one that gives us worth and value. If you go looking for worth and value in your job and in your job alone, you're going to be an attitudinal employee. Because nobody can ever give you enough value and enough worth in your work for you to feel like they've given you all that you need and deserve. There's really three things that we get from our jobs. So tell your neighbors three things that we really get from our job. Job is not primarily about your competency. A job is primarily, when you first start working, it's about your consistency. When you get that first job, they be asking you, now you going to make sure you're going to show up here, we need you here on time, we need you here. Man, they don't care about much else, but are you going to be consistent? Somebody say it's about consistency. early on when Joseph started working and it was unearthing his call, he had to learn to be consistent. Some of us never learn to be consistent. Some of us on past our first job, our second job, our third job. Some of us even consider ourselves in our careers now. But when we had our jobs, we never learned how to be consistent. And we struggle with consistency now because it never was developed in us. There's another C that a job gives us. It gives us consistency, but it also teaches us commitment. Commitment. You know, when you had your job and all your friends going out to do something else, and you got to go to your job, you start adding up, well, how much am I going to even make today? Maybe I can call and get Little Bubba to take my hours because Little Bubba always like to do more work. Little Bubba sleep at the place. I'm going to call Little Bubba, you want to work for me? Nope, I ain't going in for you. So, but the job asks for us not only consistency, but in the job we learn commitment. Some of us ain't never learned commitment. The moment it looked like the job across the street was giving out 2 more pennies, we ran over to that job. Looked like this job was 1 mile closer to my house. I'm going, and all we've done, if you look at it, and that's why they'll look at your resume, because they're trying to see consistency, but they're also trying to see commitment. Without this foundation in our lives, we're never ready to fulfill a calling, because a calling demands consistency. A calling demands commitment. And this other thing that when God says, you want to be with me, you got to get a JOB because I need you to learn consistency. I need you to learn commitment. But here's the other thing. I also need you to learn how to give effort. Effort. You've asked somebody, you ever heard the term mail it in? Anybody ever heard the term mail it in? Sometimes you can tell when people show up and they haven't put any effort into it. You ever notice, you ever work with somebody, been on a team with somebody? Yesterday as we sat around as men and talked about challenge, Brother Cliff went back into his past and remembered being on a high school football team and said we had the talent to win. We just didn't have jokers that was committed to give the effort that we needed in order for us to win. How many of you ever been somewhere where you lost because you were with people that wouldn't give the effort that was needed to win? You had the talent, you had the team, you had the ability, you had everything in place. It took a long time to get everybody on the floor in this place. And then somebody showed up that wasn't willing to give the effort. Everybody shout effort. See, you need a job. You need work. Some of us want to jump right past that. I'm more talented than all them, Jesus. Promote me. I'm better than the ones that are up in front of me. Move me forward. But he looks at you and knows you ain't committed. You can perform for a day or two, but let it be 32 days. You might be better than them on Monday, but you won't be better than them for a year of Mondays because you lack commitment. You lack consistency. You won't give effort. Somebody say, he ain't talking to me. No, say it with attitude. He ain't talking to me today because I come with commitment. Come on, come on, come on. I come with commitment. I pulled up in the parking lot today, and Brother Bruce was out there to greet me when I pulled up, and I saw the brothers in the parking lot, and I said to Brother Bruce, I said, now this feels like Solomon's house now. I said, this feels good that when people come, there's somebody there to greet them with some excellence. How you going to pull up to the place that God's people are gathering, and it looked like we just thought about doing it at the last minute? Yeah, why don't we just meet on? And Brother Bruce said, that's what you asked for, Pastor. He said, when I signed up, I came committed. I said, this brother must have been in my notes or something, but somebody said, I came with commitment. I come with consistency, and I came to bring effort. See, if we don't get that, we'll drag those weaknesses forward, and then we get to the place where we play politics, we do conniving, we do positioning, we do whispering, we do hook me upping, we do sister, can you look a brother outing? We do all that other stuff because we've never developed consistency, commitment, and the ability to give effort. There's some people that are on rosters and in places and in positions that you have exponentially more talent than. But you'll never be where they are. I'll never be where they are. We'll never be where they are because we're deficient in one of these areas. And when you add up these areas, God simply calls this character. character. Character in the Greek has a root word to it that is a word that is like the word statue. There's a Rocky statue right there around Ben Franklin Parkway. You can come around and you'll see right there at the foot of the museum steps the statue of Rocky. And I don't never see that statue saying the weather is bad today, I ain't coming out. See, it's a picture of character. Character has its root word, this word that is the same word that we use for statue. I don't never watch the Rocky thing saying, the people that took pictures next to me yesterday stood on me all funny. This one little boy sneezed on me and got on the legs of my say, and I'm not coming out today. The weather's bad. See, because the statue has commitment. The statue has consistency. The statue stays just like this, giving the same effort. I'll never go down any like this. I'm tired today, Cab, you know. You know how I normally look, but today I ain't feeling good. See, because he's given effort. He's consistent. And he's committed. I'll never go, and he's over here now. I'm like, what happened to the statue? I'm over here now. I thought you were committed to be on the right side of the step. Nope, I'm on the left side today. I like how the sun comes in. Some of us work like that. Some of us act like that, and it's hindering us moving forward. We know how to fast, we know how to pray, we know how to dance, we know how to quote, we know how to shala braka sandarebeke, we can interpret that tongue, we can do all that stuff, but you can't show up. We can't give effort. We can't be consistent. And God said, I know you got your MDiv and your PhD and all that, but I can't use you because you never developed what you needed to develop when you just needed to have a job. When you had the job, you always had an attitude. Just promote me, move me forward. I'm better than them. You doing to me what they tried to do to me, and you moved and finagled your way around. Now you somewhere. And we wondering why God won't use us the way that we're longing for him to use us. And oftentimes because we've missed one of the three critical C's, or two critical C's that add up to the E that make for the character. Well, just say this as a confession of faith. I'm committed. I'm consistent. I bring maximum effort. And I've got great character. See, that's what adds it up. I watched Draymond Green playing the other night. I didn't think the brother was going to make the pros. He plays for the Golden State Warriors. He came from Michigan State. I didn't think he was going to make the pros. His height is not perfect for his position. He doesn't handle the ball all that great. He doesn't shoot the ball all that well. But the one thing that this man gives, and he gave in the last game, he is the Energizer Bunny. This dude will run up and down that court, pursue everybody, and be consistent with it. I don't agree with everything Draymond does on the floor, but I know who's going to show up every night. The equipment manager won't ever take that man's uniform and find it dry. It's going to be soaking wet because he's giving maximum effort. He's going to be committed, and he's going to be consistent on getting those rebounds and helping his team win that game. Amen. Would your coworkers say that about you? Could your family say that about you? Could Jesus say that about you? Because the job will shape us one way or another. We'll either be better or we will be, that was your part, bitter. Come on, y'all, let's rhyme. We will either be better, y'all ain't ready to preach yet. We will either be better or we will be, see, didn't that sound better? We will either be better because of the job, or we're going to let the job make us. They looked over me. They looked around me. They looked through me. They looked at the outside of me. They didn't like it because my lips was chapped all the time. They just thought of something. Some of us know that that's our attitude. And then you know what we turn around and say, I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to just start my own thing. But can I tell you this? I've owned several businesses. There's no such thing as your own thing. Because when you work for them, when you work for you, you still need somebody to pay them invoices. And whoever's paying them invoices, guess who you work for? You work for them. Think you don't work for them. Do some shoddy halfway work or show up with some halfway commitment and watch yourself be in small claims court somewhere because they don't want to pay your invoice. because you work for somebody all the time. And what we're going to learn today, thank you, Jesus, is that in the process of things, God, being the good Father, loves us so much that he never leaves us entirely working for anybody. The whole time we're really working for him. Y'all ain't hear me. I might not even get that far in this today. It seemed like the Holy Ghost wanted me to stay right here. And I thought we'd fly past this part, but nope, it looked like we at this part. Run with me to Genesis chapter 39. Genesis chapter 39. What did we just get from our jobs? Consistency, commitment, effort, and that forms, seeing character creates a foundation for something. We together? Genesis 39 and verses 2 through 6. The Lord, look at that. The Lord was with who? And he was a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him. What I say? Yeah, his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight, and what did he do? Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put where at? Under whose authority? So it was. From the time that he had made him overseer, somebody say he got promoted, of his house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus, or therefore, because of that, he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had. He didn't take an accounting of his stuff anymore, except for the bread which he ate. Some versions of this passage here translated and say that the Egyptian or Potiphar made Joseph his equal. This man who came in a slave because of the commitment he showed, because of the effort that he showed, because of the consistency that he showed, because of the unique character that he had, he stood out from the other slaves, which made this man conclude that this Hebrew God must be with this Hebrew man. I wonder if just from looking at us at work can folk tell that God is with us? Or do they catch us with our Bibles out praying when we should be working, and that's the way we tell them that God is with us? Do they catch us sharing and counseling and ministering to folk when we should be working and doing something else? And is that how they see that God is with us? Or do they watch us having t-shirts and banners and bumper stickers? Or can they tell by the attitude and the affect that we bring to the place, because of the fruit and the result that's on us, without us even opening up our mouths? They make room for us because they see that God is with us. The first part of calling, and a long part of the foundation for calling, a significant part that never leaves, is this part that we should get when we have a job. I'm not even talking about a career. Your career is more about competency and gifting. But if I have competency and gifting, but I don't have the character, it means nothing. I just want to say this real quick. So it was obvious that Joseph had a talent. Somebody say the boy had a talent. It was obvious when we look at the scriptures that he had a talent, because he was doing something that was causing him to be able to get the work done. And as I look at the scriptures, I see this overseer word again. The same thing his father had him doing early on. And let me just say, this doesn't always work in this linear way for us. But if you look close, you can often look back and see yourself using a similar talent all the way through. For me, I always had the gift of gab. It used to get me in trouble. I remember preaching over at the movie theater. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Walker, came to one of the services when we were back at the movie theater over on 121 Tuckahoe Road. And when I finished preaching, I was standing there in front of the movie screen, and this middle-aged, maybe a little beyond middle-aged, African-American woman, darker skin, comes up to me and gets right up on my nose, like close to my face. And, I don't have no security, so nobody could stop her. And she just right up on me. And she said, "You know who I am, young man?" I said, "I know where you," I'm thinking to myself, "I know where you are. You're in my space." But I did not say that. But I did not say that because Jesus is my Lord. And she said, "Do you know who I am, young man?" And I said, "No, ma'am, I don't know who you are." She said, "You don't recognize me?" I said, "No, ma'am, I don't recognize." She says, "I'm Mrs. Walker." Right away, I flashed back to being in her class because I remember when I had to stay after one time. Because Miss Walker was teaching on multiplication and your multiplication tables at this time and moving over into division, and then we would starting to talk about exponents. So she was kind of walking through that. And I remember raising my hand because I always had the gift of gab, and I said to her, "Ms. Walker, I have a question for you. Where in life will we use this?" And I did. And the class did just what y'all just did. So she said, "Oh," and I knew we got a little comedian joker on our hands here. And she said, "Well, Mr. Brown, you're going to be after school tomorrow. And when we're after school tomorrow, I'm going to show you how this will be a part of your life in the future." This is Ms. Walker. She did it. And I stayed after. And Ms. Walker came in and brought her electric bill, her gas bill, her mortgage bill. She brought her bills in, came in the classroom, put them bills in front of me, and told me, "I want you to tell me what I pay per year for my gas." And I'm doing multiplication now. "I want you to show me, and I want you to break it down. What is my average monthly?" She gave me all these questions, so I'm working through it. And when she stopped, she picked her bills back up, looked at my answers, and she said, "And Mr. Brown, if you don't give attention to what I'm teaching you in the class now, you never going to have an electric bill to have your lights on. You never going to," right, and walk up to me. So, and if Miss Walker was here, she would say, "That's right." But Miss Walker, when she walked up on me, that story came back to me because Miss Walker did her job with consistency. She did her job with effort. She never just mailed it in. You see what I'm saying? She came and brought her whole life on the scene, and it impacted my whole life. And when she stood in front of me, she said, "I knew you was going to use that mouth for good one day." But I said that to say that sometimes if we look back, we'll start to see some consistency there of a talent that we have or an ability. And normally you don't see your talent or ability as a talent or ability, but work will bring it out. Work will cause, even if you shoveling, if you got the gift of gab, then you encourage and you do that. You be encouraging people while you shoveling. If you can sing, you be shoveling and singing. If you can dance, you'll figure out a way to dance while you're doing. If you know science, you'll be saying, "You know that we're going through the first layer of the epidermis of the earth right here." I mean, your gift will come out as you're working, and it'll be something that seems to be totally unrelated, but God uses our consistency, our commitment, and our effort to create character, but also then with our work as we do it over time to bring out a gift. Some of us move so quick we never get to see our talent. Others of us, the soon the talent come out, we're like, "Promote me. Give me a couple more dollars an hour. I'm not going to stay if you don't do something different with me. You see my talent. You see how my singing get all these workers going. I need a couple more dollars here if you want me to keep singing." No, your talent is not significant just because it's a talent. We often go to God talking about our talents and say, "God, you see how I am when I'm digging them ditches. Nobody motivates the other workers like me when I'm digging the ditches. I inspire the whole team. We dig more ditches when I'm there," and you keep on doing that before God because you think your talent means something to God. He's not impressed with our talents. He gave them to us. I know you can dance, boy, and I know what the dancing go with. I know you know about science. I know what it goes. I'm not impressed with your talents. I'm not going to promote you or move you forward just because you have talents. I'm not going to reveal your calling to you in its entirety or even the next step just because you have talents. I'm not impressed with your talents. And the folk you work for, I'm going to say it this way, God's designees that you work for, that he places in positions of responsibility and stewardship over you, they don't care about your talents either. If you can't be consistent, if you're not committed, if you don't give 100% effort. I used to work on my gift of gab. I remember I was at Morgan State University and I had missed classes for like a week. I was busy. And I had a lot going on the campus. I had a lot to tend to. And I remember after a week, I was following the syllabus. I knew where we were at. And after a week, I went back and I show up in the class and I used my talent for talking to talk to the teacher and the professor. Next thing you know, I'm back in class, but great. People wish me, I thought you dropped the class. I said, no, man, I didn't drop the class. I'm fixing to get a B in this class. I thought you were out of the class, but I would use my talent in order to help me to be inconsistent, halfway committed, and give him minimal effort, but I use my talent to make me fit in and just get the job done. I know I'm the only one that ever did that. But can I tell you that if we spend our whole lives using our talent to help us get by, slide by, work by, and just do the least by, but yet we still stick with everybody, and then we say, I still keep up with all the rest of the ditch diggers, what you mad at me for? But God knows. God sees. And just because it's acceptable with them, because I got back in the class, worked it out, the class was angry because how do Kevin Brown keep getting in? Because I got the gift of gab, baby. But you know what? That gift got me in more hell and more trouble as long as it was under my authority and I was using it the way I wanted to use it. And I finally started getting to where my talent couldn't get me out of the trouble. If that's you today, you don't have to raise your hand now, but some of y'all have been talented all your life. And your talent has you in trouble right now. Your talent has you you're up to your neck in trouble because you've used your talent so well to maneuver your way into stuff, but now you end up over your ears. God's delivering you today, right now. God's delivering you right now because he's telling you what I want from you is consistency. What I want from you is commitment. What I want from you is effort. What I want from you is character. I'm tired of seeing you use your talent when you want, how you want, where you want, to help you figure out what you want, to help you just keep getting by in life. I have something more significant for the talent. In fact, and we're going to end right here today, until the talent is submitted to God's designee, and thereby God, the talent never becomes a gift. And a gift and a talent are very, very different things. As a matter of fact, the moment your talent submits to God's designee in the place that he puts you, and the talent becomes a gift, supernatural things begin to happen. And although you're up to your neck right now, although Miss Walker got all her bills on your desk right now, although you've been using it just to wiggle in and wiggle out right now, let me just read to you what talent submitted to God and his designee look like and what it becomes gifting. And then we'll pick up right here next week. The Lord was with Joseph. And he was a successful man. Now, we're talking about a slave that just got taken away from his family, just came out of a pit from the back of a Midianite camel. And on the first day on the job there, the Lord was with Joseph. And he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master. That already seems like an oxymoron to me. How am I going to be in a house with a master and be successful? I won't be successful till I'm the master of the house. But see, you don't understand submitting talents to God's designee and thereby God, and now your talents moving from being talents to becoming supernatural gifts. See, because it was a supernatural gift and not just a talent, verse 3 says, and his master saw that the Lord was with him. And that who made? Who made it? The Lord made all he did. Who is he? To do. He made all that Joseph did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph, look at this, found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house. And all that he had, he put under his authority. So it was from the time that he had made him overseer of his house, all that he had, the Lord blessed. See, talent will be what you can do. And that'll make you be able to fit in and maybe even move forward a little bit with just people. But gifting will change environments. Gifting, which is my talent submitted to God and submitted to his designee, gifting will make me uniquely stand apart from everyone else there because I'm bringing and have something, because God will get on my natural with his super and I'll have a supernatural. And the supernatural will stand out from everything and everyone else in there. Are you ready to live this? Are you ready to live this?